I have a rather important announcement, and yes, it concerns Cheetos and chicken fries. Burger King has taken these two deliciously iconic snacks and have created Cheetos chicken fries. They're like original chicken fries made with white meat chicken, all juicy on the inside but dangerously cheesy on the outside, and cooked to crispy perfection. It's like Burger King took the perfect snack and made the perfect snack. Try them now or they'll be gone faster than an order at Cheetos chicken fries. New Cheetos chicken fries only at Burger King. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, DrRose, and you're listening to the DrRose Show on Blog Talk Radio. Tonight, we have another interesting but controversial topic that I'm going to be discussing, and it's geared specifically towards parents of Black students K through 12. And as I said, I have no doubt that it's going to stir some controversy, but I feel the need to speak to this issue because it has only gotten worse over the last 40 years. Yes, you heard me correctly, 40 years. First, after reviewing the topic that I advertised, I believe I needed to go back and lend a bit more clarity to what I really meant. So what I am asking parents to do as I review the topic is to show up for their children at school. So I revised the topic, and it is now Black parents of K through 12 students. Your kids are waiting for you to show up. Now, let me give you a backdrop on this. When I arrived in the U.S., and that is a little over 40 years ago, I was convinced that I was going to continue a career that I loved, and that is teaching. But that conviction flew out the window when I decided to become a substitute teacher in a New York public school. I showed up for class where the students were classified as slow learners. Now, I have dealt with slow learners, but based on my experience in the classroom, the previous 5 years, that class should really be renamed behaviorally challenged. Now, there are a couple of questions that came to mind as I struggled through the day. How could learning ever occur in this kind of environment on a day-to-day basis? Now, I'm talking about just substituting. I have to just do that for a couple hours and then I'm out of there. But just imagine being the permanent teacher for a class like that and then thinking that some learning is going to occur. I don't think so. The other question that came to my mind is, or I should have said, was, what goes on in the homes from which these children arrive? Well, that's another program all by itself. It took me several years to fully understand the vicious cycle of school and life readiness, and it's taken our low-income Black parents, some of them at least, an even longer time to understand what's happening to their children in school. While many of these parents are absent from their children's academic lives, their children are being labeled and channeled into a cruel juvenile justice system from which many will not return to become productive members of society. that to me is a crying shame, because as a parent, I want to make sure that my kid is doing much better than I did. And I know that I have a responsibility to my child to make sure that that happens. I am not saying that everyone will succeed, but at least I expect everyone to try. Now, let me share with you some statistics that I came across a few years ago, and I thought it would be important to use in this episode. This is a sweeping portrait of the performance of African American children in U.S. schools. Now, this was just 2015, so when I said a few years ago, I really should just say last year, okay? Children have, learning has been improved to some degree over the past 25 years, but still, our African American children are performing at significantly lower levels than students nationally. Now, this research was done by a National Assessment of Educational Progress. And here are the results. Only 18% of African American fourth graders were proficient in reading, and only 19% score as proficient in math. According to an analysis by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, the eighth graders are doing even worse than the fourth graders. Their rates were 16% for reading and 13% proficient in math. Now, by comparison, the report stated that the national average for proficiency among all students in fourth grade was 36%, while it was 40% in fourth grade math, 34% in eighth grade reading, and 33% in eighth grade math. Now, what I'm saying is that our students are performing poorly overall, but our African American children are doing way below expectation, almost 50% or more below the norm. Now, there's a lot to be said about contributing factors, and I know that we can go on and on about some of those factors, like a terrible economy, drugs in communities, violence in our communities and at school, inadequate teacher preparation, you name it. We have a list. We can either put it on or pull it off, okay? But the bottom line for me is that despite all of these factors, effective parenting based on a quality relationship with our children is a key factor to our children's survival in life and through school. For the most part, the numbers don't lie. But based on my observation over the years, I believe that if black students were more disciplined at home, had parents who partnered with their schools, or had parents who held high expectations and set safe boundaries and goals for them, they would arrive at school better prepared to learn. Now, I tell you, this is very, very troubling to me, very, troubling to me. And this is something that I see almost every day when I go in the classroom. Now, when these, it is a known fact, research bears this out, when we have high expectations both at home and at school, our children tend to rise to the occasion. And only when we are doing our part that we can actually hold teachers and schools more accountable for teaching and students, our children, more responsible for learning. I tell you, when I hear some of the conversation of our teachers and our students, I just don't know how we can really draw a line that explains, which side to fall this conversation on. Because I guarantee you that before long, if we as parents do what we are supposed to do, I think we will see some improvement in our children's academic preparation and performance over time. Now, why am I able to say that? Well, for one, I have done it as a parent. And the second thing is, I know it works because I have also done it with other people's children. Not only have I been a parent, I have been a teacher, a parent educator, and a family advocate, and you name it. I have to tell you that you could say that I have seen it all, and I know we can do better. Now, here is something else that research reveals, and I truly believe. The first institution of a child where learning takes place is at home. I really don't think there are any parents out there. I don't care what your economic status is. I don't care what your academic level is, or even your ethnic group for that matter. I don't think there's a parent out there who doesn't know that their child's first teacher is really themselves. I don't believe it. But like I said, there could be a few. Now, a child passes most of his time with his parents and learns from his or her parents and the environment provided to him by his parents in the home. So not only the parent is critical, but the environment wherein that child is developing has a key role to play in the success of this child. Then the second thing is that parents play a vital role in the education of their children, whatever the child's age. I guess I was right when I said, well, many people think that they parent their children until they're either 16 or 18. And for some reason, I thought that we parented for life. And I think I was right. We just have to know when to stop being annoying and make our children be adults and take their responsible place in life. So for me, I've always used the phrase that when they are below 18, you give them roots, and then somewhere, if they end up in college, then you give them wings so that they can fly. Now, the third thing a parent needs to understand is that if we pay attention to our children, they make more scholastic achievements than those children who are ignored at home. Now, with that said, I want to be clear that what I am talking about is not really academic success alone. I'm talking about being prepared for life. And I borrowed a philosophy from one of my favorite parenting gurus, Dr. Stefani Sabari. I tell you, she's a revolutionary when it comes to our concept of parenting. And I have to tell you that I have done a great deal of parenting education. I've spent weeks on end going through workshops and seminars from some of the nation's best when it came to trying to help parents to help their children succeed at school. And majority of the curricula that I came across seemed to pay very little attention to what goes on at home. And that is where I place much of our blame. Now, she went a little further, which, if you've ever heard her or watched or read any of her work, you really have to take a step back. And it is very frightening, but nonetheless true. She believes that as parents, our primary role is to nurture our children. And her philosophy about what parent is really that we, instead of us thinking that we are raising our children, we're actually raising our own consciousness. And she has a couple steps that really helps to do that. First, she calls us as parents to become aware of how to heal our own baggage. Yes, parents, we do come to parenting with a lot of baggage. Yes. The second thing she calls us to is that we resolve our own unmet needs. Because oftentimes what I find, and if you listen to one of the previous episodes, I find that we are trying to live out our unresolved issue in our children. And most of the times, we're not doing that because we have taken time out to assess what those are. So this is a challenge for people who have never done something like this before, you know. And then the final thing she said was that we must discover our own wounds. And when we begin to heal, then we are at a point where we can begin. Then and only then, we can begin to be the kind of parents who can raise what she calls conscious children. Now, another way of putting that is when we show up as parents and become the kind of children we want to see at school, at home, in society, then our children will follow. Now, that is the truth. And listen, I am not saying our parents are to be blamed for everything. But believe me, there is a lot more that I think our African American parents can do, especially our low-income parents. I understand the challenges. I've been there, done that, okay? So I am not buying any of the excuses. I think we need to show up for our children. Now, as I said earlier, this is not an easy task because one of the realities about today's parents is that many of them are children themselves. And how can we expect children to raise children? They never got some of the foundation that their first generation parents got. And some of those didn't get it either. Because what is happening in reality is, whether they realize it or not, is that they're still operating based on the voices they internalized throughout their own childhood. So they're bringing to their parenting niche the experiences they had, the unmet needs they had growing up, the wounds that they had and experienced growing up, and so on and so on. Now, despite of all of that, though, all this can be changed for the better. And believe me, parents, when we do that, our children will thank us later for it. Trust me. Yes, they will. They will tell their friends. We will see that in the classroom. I tell you, it is just amazing to see some of the children in the classroom. You can tell the ones who are a little bit intrigued by the disruption by some of the students, but they are so self-disciplined, they won't join in it. And then you can just see another group that think it is just fun to be disruptive, to be disrespectful, because guess what? They know that the schools have a lot of rules and regulations, but very rarely are those implemented. And when they are implemented, they don't even seem to care that they're the ones who are mostly impacted by the suspensions and the remediation and none of that. And oftentimes, that's the only time you see some of our parents show up at school, when their children get in trouble. Now, to me, by then, it is a little bit too late, okay? I would love to see many of our African-American low-income parents just show up, because that is the thing to do. Show up unannounced. Meet your children's teachers. You would be amazed, I tell you, if you were just there at your child's school one day, unannounced, observing, unknown to them, you would go back home and wonder, or maybe I'm assuming, but let's say you would wonder, is this the child that left home today? Try it one day. You might be surprised. Now, as I said, how do parents show up for their children at school? There are a couple things that you can do. Now, for one, you can spend more time with your children at home. For the most part, what is keeping our kids' attention is electronics, games, the telephone, and the television, and you name all the gadgets that our parents can give to our children. Sometimes I wonder if they don't realize that those things cannot take the place of the time you spend with your child. Now, the second thing that you can do is to provide a supportive atmosphere at home for your child. Doesn't have to be a mansion. Not all of us can afford mansion, but if it's even a room, you can make it supportive for your children. The third thing that you can do is to encourage your children. You know, I ask some of the students from time to time when they're given homework. Some go home and they tell me their parents don't even ask them about what went on at school that day, much more to find out if they have homework or even to insist that they do homework. This is just not on their radar. These are the same parents who are buying expensive sneakers and, you know, their children have fancy hairdos and they themselves have fancy hairdos, nails and you name it. They are totally put together on the outside. Physically, they go to the beauty parlor, the beauty shop, more religiously than they show up at school for their children. And to me, that is a matter of priority, misplaced priority. Okay? Now, another thing that we can do is to discuss our children's problems with them. Because I don't think half the time people know what's going on, either at school or anywhere else for that matter. I don't think they know what's going on with their children. If you don't speak to them, how are you going to know? And then, for goodness sake, keep watch over your children's activity. Yes, I understand you can't be everywhere. You can't see everything. You can't know everything. But you can exercise some degree of care when they're in your space or in the space of your friends. And I know this one is going to really cause a bump in the road. Watch your personal behavior while you're advising your children. You know, there are some parents who use words that are just, I don't know how to describe them, barring being depraved. And they're using it to their children. At the same time, they're telling their children not to use those words. They speak in tone that the meaning both about their teachers or anybody else for that matter, and then they expect their children won't do the same thing. And then finally, I encourage you to make links between yourself, your home, and your children's teachers and their schools. Believe me, if you begin to do a couple of these things, you are going to find that your children are going to begin to think that finally, my parents really care about what I do. And when you talk to them about what they're doing at school, they know that you expect them to go to school, do their work. Because as far as I'm concerned, that is your child's job, going to school and performing to the best of their ability. And your job is to be the best teacher at home for your children. Now, I know that this is not going to sit well with everybody. And I wish I could hear from some of you about how you feel about what was said. But overall, here's the bottom line for me. Show up for your children today so that you won't have to work elsewhere for them. Okay? So have a good evening. Thank you for listening. See you same time next week.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
I have a rather important announcement, and yes, it concerns Cheetos and chicken fries. Burger King has taken these two deliciously iconic snacks and have created Cheetos chicken fries. They're like original chicken fries made with white meat chicken, all juicy on the inside but dangerously cheesy on the outside, and cooked to crispy perfection. It's like Burger King took the perfect snack and made the perfect snack. Try them now or they'll be gone faster than an order at Cheetos chicken fries. New Cheetos chicken fries only at Burger King. Limited time only at participating restaurants.